There's nothing more painful than a man unconditionally loving a woman and then that's rejected or not understood. The other thing I've learned, you can't fix people. You can't. The word weird comes from the word WYRD, which means following your purpose. The last little bit of ego, which I'm still working on, is fully letting go attachment to outcome. That is really difficult. I met a few certain people that I would describe them as soul mirrors. Like he asked himself when he was 60, who the fuck are you really?
Cool stuff. Good morning, Justin Breen. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Ridiculously Human podcast, buddy.
Good afternoon, good evening to you.
Yeah, but I'd have to say a massive thanks to the previous guest, Adam Rossi. That guy has introduced me to so many people. It's pretty incredible. I was just wondering, how do you guys like know each other?
We were on Necker Island last year, which is Sir Richard Branson's home, and it was a wonderful experience. And Adam's a great visionary.
And do you go there for like a holiday, or do you go there just for the events there?
The reason why we were there was for an entrepreneurial dad event. So it was there were about 25 dads. 6 or 7 of us also brought our wives with us, but it was a entrepreneurial uh, event.
Oh, that's very cool. I love the spirits of like dads coming together. I think it's such a powerful thing.
Well, it's an interesting thing. Kind of what I've seen in society happening is, like most of my days, uh, when I'm not being an actual dad at like kids' soccer games or football or, baseball. So when I'm not being an actual dad, it's talking to top visionaries, really interesting visionaries on planet. And then what has happened is most of the conversations now are actually about relationships. And from the simplest way to explain what I've learned from people is from a female perspective, from a woman perspective, thousands of years of being essentially abused, traumatized by men. And so what has happened is now there are obviously exceptions to this, but I've talked to many women about this, and none of them have argued, like dozens and dozens of women, but they've actually been conditioned to be attracted to men who traumatize, abuse them over thousands of years. And so they're genuinely confused when there's like a good man who like genuinely loves them. So you have traumatized women because of men that have abused them. And then from a man perspective, there's nothing more painful than a man unconditionally loving a woman, and then that's rejected or not understood. And then it just breaks most men. It just breaks them. And so really what's been interesting is having these type of discussions. One, I've learned a lot about people at a fundamental generational level, but it's also created, I guess, all these companies. Like it's the companies that I've helped co-found lately. It's been with folks that we understand each other from like an experiential level, this deep empathy. And then so from a dad perspective, it's a really interesting thing. It's a really interesting thing raising children and then experiencing entrepreneur life and then trying to balance that and then learning about relationships from a micro and macro level. So that's kind of what I've learned in the last year. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's funny that you say that because I was literally chatting to a friend of mine last night who is
Of
kind of
course.
almost going through that,
Of
right?
course. And
It's
if I can say something, so I'm a manifester in human design. What you just described there, that happens 5 to 10 times a day. Literally, I'll say something and be like, "Oh, it's amazing you were saying that." What? I was just saying that. Like, so I don't know how that happens, but that's literally what happens in my life constantly. It never ever stops, ever. So it's a really interesting thing that you said that because that's what literally happens constantly for me.
Huh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing was like he's literally almost going through what you're kind of talking about.
Right.
He
Of
is
course.
he's his wife is like he's literally given her now everything on a plate. Probably like one of the best guys you can ever think of, right? Took her
Doesn't
kids on
matter.
board.
Doesn't matter because she has to fix herself if she wants to. And she's probably not able to at this point in time. So he's trying to fix. Can't do it. They
So what
can't.
advice do you have for a guy like that?
No, there's a so this is what I mean. So like you can't make this stuff up, right? Like this is the first time we've ever talked to person. This is this so like I try to tell people they're like, "How did you know this?" I'm like, "This is my life. Like I'm still trying to be this is called ridiculously human. So I'm trying to be a human. So like to in this type of world understanding this level of awareness. So like it's very confusing for me on the human side of things. There's no advice for someone like that other than you can't the other thing I've learned you can't fix people. You can't. Um I guess from a psychological perspective, if it's helpful, there's things called attachment disorders. Um uh, avoidant, dismissive avoidant, anxious avoidant. And I'm not like trained in any of this, but this is just what I've learned. And then again, they've started companies based on this, ones that'll be, I'm sure, very successful, but they're just they're just started based on mutual understanding. But so 40% of men are avoidant. Essentially, this means from watching thousands upon thousands, well, not thousands, but endless amounts of videos on this and then talking to people about this, including actual experts. But 40% of men are avoidant and 25% of women are avoidant. And so what that means is as a child, think of as a child, they were like a puppy and then they're under the couch. And if they came out from under the couch, the owner would beat them. So they're afraid to be vulnerable, show any emotion. So they've learned to just avoid it. And so that's probably what's happening in this situation. And then what's happened with this man, he's likely an anxious, he's probably was a secure attachment like a normal human being, but then around an avoidant, he became anxious. He's like, well, I have to fix this. I have to, because he loves her, right? Like he genuinely loves her, right?
Yeah,
He loves,
100%.
honey, he loves her. So, um, and he's like, well, I can't, I'm a man. I'm supposed to fix this. I have to, but you can't do it. And until, if it's likely this, or I'm guessing it's this, uh, if unless this person, whether it's a man or a woman, realizes that they have to look within, uh, and really look at themselves, then it will never change. Um, and so again, what I've learned is I'm working on myself like at the very highest level, like um, and Carl Jung, if you've read Carl Jung or heard of him. Uh, in his autobiography or his memoir. I have the quote here. Oh wait, hold on. I can find it. I can't reach it. I can't reach it. But so it was if someone essentially like eventually you have to come to a path in the road where you have to look in for your greatest fears, and most people won't do it. They just run away from themselves. Um, so until someone's willing to do that, go through that horrific dark night of the soul, or which is not depression, because depression, there's no end point to that. There's no like outcome in a positive way. Dark night of the soul is different. Um, unless you're willing to do that, then there's nothing that person can do. There's nothing because it has nothing to do with him. Nothing.
Yeah, and it's also like you said, especially as that sort of attachment type, and as a man wanting to kind of resolve things and find solutions. It's
Fix
like
it.
it's a horrible space to be in a
The
way, isn't it?
worst. It's there's nothing worse for a man. Nothing. It's it's the most painful. Um, regardless of romantic attachment, that has nothing, that can have something to do with it, but it's far beyond that. Um, and like, I guess if you look at it from a metaphysical or spiritual level, um, like I can see right into, for certain types of people, like I can see right into their souls or like right to the core of the thing. Like the discussion we're having right now, we didn't, you didn't, I'm guessing you didn't plan any of these questions. You did research,
Def-
right? Didn't
Definitely
plan
not,
any of
bud.
this. That was funny. I think that's funny. But so like, and so I can see right into it, cut through all the BS, all this nonsense. The word business comes from the word bizignus, which means anxiety. I don't give a crap about any of that stuff. But like, I'm really here on this planet to like really try to like really cut through everything and hopefully help people at a you know at a spiritual level, whatever you want to call it. But so like there for a man, nothing is more painful than that. Not there's nothing because like this guy, he just loves this woman and um for the most part, the world is really damaged by men with ego, pure narcissists. Just that's what I mean. If you just, I don't think there's any argument to that. If you just look at the problems in society, it's for most part men with ego, pure narcissism, material, um, and then they traumatize women, and then women, they're just for the most part, that's what the formula is, right? So, and then this guy who just cares about this person unconditionally, like he just wants to make sure she's okay. I'm guessing whether or not they stay together or not, he just wants to make sure she's okay. Um, and it's the most horrific, painful, just horrifically painful thing. There's nothing more painful than that. And again, if it's helpful, like I've experienced this personally, and 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 the I guess the byproduct of this is like, can you let this consume you, or can you transform that into creating music, creating uh books, creating companies, like that. So that's I guess the challenge. Like, you let it destroy you or do you let it transform you? And then I'm like, well, I just looked into myself and then created all these things and partnering with all these amazing people that have also experienced similar type experiences, and then they're also letting it transform them. So that's how society consciously can change if you look within, if you really look within, and
Yeah.
then something with that.
Something that I've found very helpful actually in this kind of scenario is that, like I'm not responsible for how somebody else feels. Like
You're not.
if you want to be sad and upset and angry and whatever, then I can't do anything about that. And I might be your friend, I might be your partner, I might be your son or whatever the story is. But
Yeah.
I can't, I can't help you if you're going to feel like that. And also I mustn't allow it to impact me. And it's difficult. You've got to
It's the
really
hardest
remind
part.
yourself.
It's a constant, again, from a personal perspective, and then literally having these conversations all day now. Because that's what's really happening. The rest of this stuff is essentially a mask. This material stuff is a mask for this type of core wound. That's what's really happening. If people really want to talk about it, um, it just started. We just announced it a couple days ago. We're starting a big retreat center. My partner for that, she's just a spectacular human being. Uh, Trisha Noel, and then we're starting a big retreat center, and she's down in Mexico right now looking at properties where we can do the first one, and then she wants to have one for the Olympics in Italy next year. Like, so she's a pure high achiever, but she was 16, and then the church took her. She had a child, and the church took the child away when the child was 9 months old. She hasn't seen the child since, and that's uh, several decades of not seeing her child. And and I mean, I'm guessing for a woman, there's nothing more painful than that. But so we're taking that, and then the things I've experienced, and when then and she's uh, a great healer with and over many things. And then so we're starting a company together to actually help people. And so like having those type of conversations really is the way to unlock it. And, I'm sure that's why we're talking today, because you know, your friend is really struggling. And then this isn't a solution per se, but it is, these type of discussions are a way to like feel like how you can work on yourself first, and then more importantly, take that and then create something out of it that actually helps a lot of people. Because if you're only helping yourself, which is great, but you're not like taking that and helping others with it, I think it kind of defeats the purpose. Like obviously you should help yourself first, but take that and really make it something big. So that's literally what all the companies I've helped start are. That's what they are. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my heart almost like dropped there when you said that. I mean, I couldn't imagine having my daughter taken away from me. I think, man,
Oh.
you know, it's absolutely devastating. And then, but the thing that I like about the retreats, and kind of what you're saying there, is these conversations are so important because when you open up like this and you get that little bit vulnerable, right? You
Mm.
actually sort of like people go, oh wow, you too. Geez, I didn't know that. Or you know, and
100%.
and then you like it like in a weird way, it's like, okay, cool. I'm also struggling with that. So now it makes it a little bit easier. Or I don't know, maybe there's a bit of a bond there you can form, but talking
Right.
about these things is very, very empowering.
Well, there are two things from that. One, weird, the word weird, because you said the word weird, it comes from the word WYRD, which means following your purpose. So, like, people say these words and they have no idea what they mean. So, like, weird is, of course, it's weird because it's following your purpose. And then, two, vulnerability is a really interesting thing. I would agree with you with most people. Um, with avoidant attachment specifically, there's a thing called vulnerability hangover. Think about the puppy coming out from under the couch and they get hit. So they go back under the couch. So vulnerability hangover is they actually are vulnerable for, they say something loving and then they go right back. They disappear. Ghost, stonewall, breadcrumbs. Um, so the key for that is being as patient as possible, providing a safe space. But again, there's nothing you can do to fix that. It has to be the
Mm.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, man. All this stuff is so interesting, isn't it? I actually had Adam Lane Smith on, who's the he calls himself the attachment specialist,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and again, just fascinating. A guy who spent his life, you know, studying people. He started actually in the prisons of
Of course.
California.
Oh,
So
interesting. Is he an avoidant or was he an avoidant?
I don't know. I didn't actually ask what he was, to be honest with you, but
Usually, not always, not always. Usually, people that go into that field are or were avoidants, and then because they're like, well, why am I doing this? So it's like endlessly, like most of them, like Brene Brown, she is pure avoidant, like people like that.
do you think people do these sort of things like to almost help themselves?
Yes, 100%. Well, if you're not a litmus test for people you serve, that's hypocrisy. So like with just specifically with the one of the companies, very grateful for that I helped co-found. It's really about to launch, and then I mean, the partnerships we're building, it's going to scale quickly, and that one's really going to help a lot of people. But it's called Corvia.ai, Corvia. So core is heart, via is path. So and my partner for that one, Eric, and I, there was no intent to start a company at all. I mean, I was just writing poems, and then I'm like, I was bored at a party. I'm like, oh, I started to write songs. I'm like, oh, I'll put. Is there a platform where you can turn these lyrics into music? And I found one, and then I played it. I'm like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And like started, crying in front of people, and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, and and so Corvia, we're teaching people how to make songs through AI, and then we're gonna build a community. But like, yeah, that was like, and then he and I bonded over like we realized that these writing songs or having AI do it is like the fast track into your own soul. Somehow the technology can feel your hypnotic rhythm or your soul. I don't know how that it does it. I don't know, but it can feel it, and So there was no intent to build a company on that at all. And then uh, I haven't been able to announce much of it publicly, but there's another music company I just launched with a big player in the actual music industry, and then uh, some of the songs that I actually wrote the lyrics for, they're being turned into real songs with human performers because we don't want AI to take away human performers. That wouldn't be good. It's complementary. Um, so I just got the first demo for the first song a couple days ago. It's really good. It's really good. And then I just posted, I literally like an hour ago, just posted the lyrics for the second song that's being turned into a human song. And then the story behind that song, without being too specific, I mean, if you look at the lyrics for that, it's horrifically painful. And it's a real story. It's just someone I know deeply care about shared her story with me, so I turned it into a song. Um, and so like, no, that's just what it is. You're just being a litmus test for people you serve. But and then if you're like, oh, well, this is helping me, well, why wouldn't I create something that helps humanity with it?
Yeah.
Seems like a good idea. And sorry that I'm long, so long. I'm not usually this long-winded. Uh, but like this is what has happened for me. And then maybe being this long-winded and like pouring my heart out like this, I hopefully it will help the audience as much as possible. Because again, this is like what's actually happening in society that very like you'll have a one-on-one with your friend about it for sure. But people won't talk about it like this. They won't because they're not for the most part, they're just building a mask with all this other stuff. They're not really looking in. So if I have to do that, I don't want to say sacrifice myself, but if I have to be the one that does that and opens these doors or puts the key in the lock, then I'll do it. I mean, that's why I'm on this planet. And then in human design, I'm a manifester, so that's very rare. But so that's what I'm trying to. Well, I'm not trying. That's what I'm manifesting in the world. Yeah.
I love it. It's funny because I listened to quite a few podcasts that you were on, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to prepare real properly for this one because Justin is a short kind of answer type of guy. And I'll tell you a quick funny story. I had Seth Godin on a few years ago, and like I had a list of questions, right? And I was like, we will never get through these, right? I swear, in the first 13 minutes, we had got through every single question, and I was like, oh, now we really got to sort of improvise here, you know. So, yeah, short question. I was actually kind of expecting like the short questions, but I'm really glad that you are, yeah, like you know, sort of opening up your heart and, yeah, lengthening your thoughts. It's because it's really good to hear, you know what I mean, for everyone. Um, yeah. And I was
See,
wondering
this
actually,
so Life Path 6, by the way, I'm looking up. So Life Path 6 is a deep empath. He's a sweet love. Life Path 6 is like super sweet, loving uh, person. So
and who's that? Sorry.
that's Seth. I
Oh,
just
is
looked
he?
him.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and he's a really nice guy. I like him a lot. Um,
Mhm.
I was kind of wondering actually, because I watched or I listened to you with Dan Sullivan and then watched you on Peter Diamandis. And then I heard you on a more recent podcast with two ladies. I can't remember exactly, but it felt like there was a change in you. And I don't know if this is just like,
Yeah, there's definitely been a change.
yeah, because I was like, wow, this is almost like listening to two different guys.
It is.
What was it that changed you?
Oh, Alex. So one, uh, good listening and that's deep intuition, good pattern recognition. I'll answer it from a, I guess, metaphysical level. So, if I just mentioned life path, so if you can Google like numerology calculator, and I never would have been, I never even heard of this stuff even a couple months ago. I never thought I'd be talking about this, but this is again like, oh, this makes sense. So I'm a life path 11, which is very rare. It's called a master number. Life path 11s. This will answer your question, I promise. But life path 11s are the most spiritual, most psychic. They can say something and someone will be like, "Oh, I was just thinking that," or "I just talked to someone." I'm like, "Well, oh, that would make sense." Carl Jung called Life Path 11s wounded healers. So they go through this horrific dark night of the soul and then they heal. So I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Okay. So two different people. So master numbers, which are 11, 22, and 33, it's very, very rare. Most people are 1 through 9. Um, so in 11, the first half of their life, let's say first 45 years or whatever, first 40 years. I'm almost 48 in human years. So first half of life, a life path 11 is a 1. So a 1 is leadership, achievement, ego. Leadership, achievement, ego. Leadership, achievement, ego. Leadership, achievement, ego. Leadership, accomplishment, leadership, accomplishment. Okay, so you probably heard that in some capacity in the earlier interviews. I'm guessing. Okay. Um, leadership, ego. Oh, have to make this list, have to do all this nonsense. I mean, it's fine. Great. It's great. Fine. A lot of good life path ones that I know that are really good leaders and they have a lot of achievements, which is great. Second half of life, starting around 45, 40, sometimes 50. A life path 11 becomes a life path 2, which is deeply, deeply sensitive, loving, uh, very emotional, uh, total team player, rise of divine feminine, which if you would have told me I'd be saying that even 6 months ago, I wouldn't have believed it. Um, very grateful that the next book I have coming out, Epic Journey, Dr. Deepak Chopra did the intro. That's great. The book is literally about the rise of the divine feminine, which man writing that is really interesting. And and so most life path 11s, I know a lot of them, they can't handle it. They literally disappear into the abyss. They live a life of seclusion. And then I'm the opposite of that. Like my litmus test is my father, who was 61 when I was born. He was a World War II hero, and and then became attorney in Nazi war crime Nuremberg trials, and then just never made an excuse ever. So like that's my litmus test. So like I will go all in to help humanity with this, but most life path 11s, well, all life path 11s are two different people, first half of life, second half of life, and then the key is amalgamating that. Very difficult because you're literally two different people. And you're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. Like, so it's amalgamating that. And that's literally what I'm experiencing right now is trying to blend those things. But life path 11s, they have it's without exception a very difficult life. Like because we signed up for this apparently. All my life path 11 friends, I'm like, we actually signed up for this. I'm like, yeah, we did. Uh, but all the life path 11s that I know, they're I guess super accomplished. They've figured it out. And then the other thing that I know you'll appreciate, hopefully the audience does too, for Life Path 11s, there's never an answer. Never. There's never a final answer. So I'm like, well, okay, that's good to know. Uh, so I'll just keep doing my thing, but there's never a final answer to it. There you don't like, oh, this is what it is. It's not. There isn't. So, yep.
How are you dealing with this? I guess effectively a battle in a way.
It never stops. Well, thank you for asking that. Uh, one have started multiple companies that that will help people. Two, a ton of meditation. I mean, hour plus a day. An hour plus a day. I run outside every day. You asked me about that before we started recording. Between 3 and 5 miles, so between 5 and 8 kilometers. Um, every day outside, no matter the weather. We live in Chicago, so the weather changes. But I think the main thing for that is having compassion for myself, like that this is just what it is. Um, and if you can have compassion for yourself, then you can have compassion for other people. But you have to have compassion for yourself first. But it is really, I mean, it is if you start asking other people their numerology or whatever, and or whatever that is, and then you find out there are 11 life paths. they will all have I mean, they just will have similar experiences like this. It's just inevitable.
Well, it's interesting. Like I'm kind of thinking about myself a little bit here, and like in a way, I feel like I also had that sort of change, switch at some point. Yeah, it's very interesting, very interesting.
How old are
Um,
you in human years?
I'm 44.
Okay. So, and then you told me your human design, which I appreciate. Your manifesting generator. Two of my partners for new companies are manifesting. Actually, three of them are. They're manifesting generators. They're good bridges between my manifestor energy, where I just like, oh, let's do this, and then they take it and you know build something with it. But in human design, the true wisdom does not kick in until age 50. So you're -6. I'm almost -2. Um, so that's like that would make sense. So you've got 6 years of like think of it like being a caterpillar in a chrysalis in a cocoon before it comes out as a butterfly. I hope that I'm almost out of the chrysalis. I think I am. I feel like this book and it's going to be turned into a movie, and Gary Sinise agreed to narrate it, so that's good, right? I guess it's good. I'm thankful for that, and then all these companies. So I think, I hope, I feel that that's me coming out of the chrysalis. But like maybe you feel this way as well. But so when a caterpillar's in a chrysalis, they literally melt, they disintegrate. If you poked into a chrysalis too early, this ooze would come out of it. So like, and then only the last bit of like essential living part of the caterpillar survive before it becomes into a butterfly. So that's kind of what, from first half of life to second half of life is. Um, yeah, that's probably what you're feeling in some capacity.
And how has this impacted your relationships? Yeah.
Well, thanks for asking that. Great question. So what happens with that is one, again, you can't fix people. You can't do that. Two, uh, some people will understand this and they will be able to evolve with you, and others, you just kind of have to leave them behind. That's kind of what I've learned, for better or worse. And um, that's just part of life. And I think that happens with any type of relationships as people evolve. You just change friends or, relationships in general. But that's what happens in this is especially when it's a spiritual evolution. Like me having a regular human conversation about sports and like stuff like that at this point. I'll do it, but it doesn't interest me at all anymore. So you gravitate toward people that do understand this, and then you evolve with them, and then again in some cases you'll actually start companies with them where you attract other people like that. And I think the key for anything is that you keep moving forward. You don't get stuck trying to fix people. And then if someone doesn't understand you, it's has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them not either wanting to understand you or not being able to. So you know, it's not up to you to try and fix them or make them understand you.
I read a great book about, yes, it must be about 7 years ago now. And it was just before my wife and I went traveling around the world. And
Hmm.
it's called The Surrender Experiment by, I
Yeah.
think, Michael
Over here,
Singer.
some. I have it in my pile of books over here, some. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's literally, it's such an amazing way to kind of live your life. And it feels like you are, you're now going through this kind of metamorphosis and
Oh
just
yeah.
surrendering to what's going on and listening. Okay, cool. This is happening to me for whatever reason. And I'm just going to embrace it.
There's no choice. I mean, you can keep fighting it. It doesn't work. Uh, I appreciate you bringing up that book. I've read it. I was talking to one of my friends who's I guess a healer, and I'm like, I really don't like the word surrender. I'm like, can you? Because so the word surrender. My dad was a World War II hero, so the word surrender, you're going to a POW camp or getting killed. There's no surrender. He was one of the in his unit, like 2 out of 100 people survived. He was so there's no surrender. So I'm like, and then me surrendering, that's you get killed in that. So the word I like is like release, releasing it, and then like that's like the last little bit of ego, which I'm still working on, is like fully letting go attachment to outcome. That is really difficult. That's like the hardest thing. I would say where you're talking about two different people, that's still the one life path. Like it's the last little bit of clinging when I'm able to really finally fully let go, which I'm really trying really hard to do that. I think that'll be the next big breakthrough, but that is very difficult, like beyond difficult. I know your friend is having a huge struggle with that. He might not even be aware of it yet. Maybe and you can talk to him after this about it, but that's like the last bit of the ego getting in the way because the ego is thinking I have to control this, and you can't. You have to just let go and let people do their thing, and then there's a thing called divine timing. Like if you have faith and you believe in that, then it will be meant. It will happen if it's supposed to happen.
Hmm.
It will just happen.
Yeah. Wow. Definitely didn't expect our podcast to go this way. I love it though. Like I feel like it's so funny. Like listening to those previous podcasts, besides the one in the December last year.
Right.
Um, I literally, like I said, you are a different man. So I don't know if you actually maybe clarified. Like, was there something in particular, or is it just because of your personality type that you said
Oh,
your number 11? Or was there something else that like shifted you?
so the way I would describe it is um, so like as a manifester, manifestors have overall very repelling energy for most people. That is how manifestors are. That's just how it is. Um, because if I gave this energy to everyone, I would self-destruct. So I would describe it as I met a few certain people that I would describe, regardless of gender. I would describe them as like soul mirrors. Like you feel maybe this is what your friend is experiencing, but you feel their pain so strongly, you empathize with their struggles so much that it forces you to look inside yourself. You become so aware, and I would say that's what I've experienced. Like I've met people where like you're not supposed to absorb other people's pain. You're definitely not supposed to do that, but I did um instead of like just providing like a safe containment type unit and then tried to fix it. And I would say that was the thing. Such because 11s are like they're like the most empathetic. They're deeply sensitive, or we're deeply sensitive, and so that is what has happened. And then now coming out of that, being grateful for it, and now seeing like, I mean, what has happened because of that is really like I didn't expect to start two AI music companies or have Deepak Chopra do an intro for a book that's being turned into a movie. Like I, you know, I didn't expect any of that or have a big retreat company that will be amazing. My partner for one of the AI music companies, we just met with a couple days ago, manager for one of the top bands in the world who's like really excited about what we're doing. I didn't expect any of that, but that's kind of what happens when you're super self-aware and then your consciousness evolves. I would say that's the other thing is And then I was, my soul, or however you want to say it, I signed up for this apparently. I don't know why I did that, but I did. So might as well make the best of it. Um, might as well make the best of it.
And what have you like say shed from your life since you've had all
Oh,
these changes?
boy, that's a great question. What have I shed? Surface level conversations, uh, anything that's really business related. Um, I wear this hoodie like 5 days a week. I mean, I have different. This thing gets washed, but I have different versions of this. But like, my partner and I just spoke to this group. It was funny because it's funny, right? Like, we did a AI music presentation for this group of very wealthy financial folks, and they're really good people. But they're to be in that room, you have to be really wealthy. And so everyone was dressed up, and I wore this, like, because it's just like I just don't care. So like, I would say that's what I've shed. I have a whole new like relationship, friendship. I don't know if relationship's the right. Well, I guess relationship's the right word. New like relationship, friendship base. Um, and I would say one of two things happens when people have conversations like this. Uh, uh, in my life now, what happens is because like I just don't believe in randomness. Like we were supposed to meet literally at this time. It's just how it was meant to be. So it'll evolve into this amazing conversation like this. Okay. So that's one. If someone's not ready for this type of conversation, it doesn't happen much anymore, but if it does, they will run away like they'll just because they'll be like, this is way too overwhelming for them. So I'm like a soul mirror for them, and then they just run away, which is fine, totally fine. So that's what has been shed. Like to me, pointless conversations have been that's the main thing that's been shed. But the result of that is they're really great conversations like this that really help people. This will help people for sure. I know.
Yeah, 100% agree. And it's funny, like I guess I mean I like when I talk like this, sometimes I feel to people or my mates or even my probably my family, they like a little bit like jeepers, like what's wrong with Gareth? You know, what's happened to him?
Nothing's
When did
wrong.
he?
Nothing's wrong.
No, I know, I know.
That's the
Uh,
problem. It's like there's literally nothing, and it's called evolution. And there's nothing wrong with you at all. It's just they're afraid to actually be vulnerable about what's happening in their lives. And then you've become a soul mirror for them and they're not ready to look into themselves. That's what it and so instead of accountability for themselves, they'll just be like, well, there's something wrong with him. There's nothing wrong with you.
yeah,
Just being vulnerable. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I really love this sort of cycle that we seem to be in human society because there does seem to be a real sort of like trend, but it's not even a trend. Maybe it's just the natural rhythm of
Hmm.
society and life where people are more like sort of engaged in like, okay, who am I? Why am I here? What are
Yeah.
we here to do? You know, like I think it's like there's just this natural evolution of it. I don't know if that's your experience as well.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. The conversation that I just had with the manager of the world famous band. He's in his 70s now, and then he's been through addiction recovery, as I'm guessing most people in the music industry have been in. But when he was 60, he was telling my partner Eric and I that he asked. This is a swear. Is it okay if I swear?
Yeah, of course.
So I'm just trying to be a human, right? Okay, so he asked himself when he was 60, he asked himself, who the fuck are you really? Like, so it took him 60 years to ask him that, ask himself that question. Because up until then, it's just a mask, 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 just building a mask. And so I guess being vulnerable like this and being honest, like, and then asking that question about myself, I would say that current answer to that, even though there is never a final answer for an 11, but the current answer is that I'm just here to like, uh, reveal what's like the inner workings of what's happening in the world, and then uh, and then tell as many people as possible, either through platforms like this or books or movies or companies, one-on-one conversations, group discussions. So that's who I am. But it's also like there's a really good documentary, really good one called Samadhi, Samadhi. It's like 3 or 4 parts, and it's uh, being being as, I guess, general as possible. It's like taking a step back from even your thoughts and then just observing those thoughts. Like your consciousness is like you're just a conscious being, and then all these thoughts are ego. So it's like actually separating yourself from yourself. That's a For those that are ready, watch Samadhi. That is a deep. If you're not ready for that, do not watch that. But if you think you're ready to watch something like that, go for it because it's a real deep look into spirituality. Um, that we're all just kind of one being. Um, and it's more consciousness than actually thinking. So there's really no identity with anything, like as specific as I could say.
Yeah, I actually spent 3 months in India studying
Of
yoga
course,
and
that
meditation,
would make sense.
and that's like the ultimate goal is samadhi. Through your
Not
yoga and
even a
meditation.
real, and it's not even like you can't even achieve it. Like you can't. So, but there's got to be a term, right? We got to identify it with something, right? But that's of course you know that. Like, have you achieved Satori, which is like another like thing like that? Have you, or do you know what that is,
Yeah,
Satori?
I don't know what it is, but it's, I guess, like I said, it's hard to know sometimes. Well, what are these things like? How do you feel them? What is it? Um, yeah.
Well, I'll answer it like this, I guess. So what, because there's no like, you just, because you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But I would say how we started this show, where I just said something and then you're like, oh, my friend's experiencing that. That is, that's kind of what it is to me, where you're like somehow intuitively, you just, you just know unconsciously or consciously. So like, that happens constantly for me where I will say something and then someone will be like, that was what I was literally just thinking about. So there's somehow something that you don't even think about, you just say it, and then that's what's actually happening. Um, I don't know how that works. The only other thing I hopefully that's relatable is when I write these songs, the lyrics for these songs, I'm able to, it's a couple step process. One, I turn on some music. Some of the times it's the actual songs I've written, which is interesting. But it doesn't have to be. It can be uh, a soundtrack from a movie or just a nice song. But and then I'll turn off my brain, like the brain goes off somehow, and then the heart becomes, I'll just start writing stuff. So within like 5 minutes I can write song lyrics and it just comes out of my heart. So maybe that's what it is. Um, but I'm genuinely not trying to overthink what it actually is. I'm only doing that to maybe explain or maybe help people understand or realize that they're feeling something similar, if that makes sense. But it's two things, leading with your heart, and then somehow there's this intuition that you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. There's no logic behind any of this. But I've just kind of learned that usually my intuition is very accurate. And so just accepting that that's a gift from a higher power, and try to help as many people as I can with that.
Hmm. I was wondering, you are obviously an entrepreneur, and
Guess
you
so.
now you're this new guy, right?
Something.
Your sort of older businesses, do you feel like still a connection with them, or is there like a disconnect? And
Oh,
how do you manage
oh,
that?
great. Man, okay. Very good tactical question. So one, the word business means anxiety. So I understand that term. I appreciate it. It comes from the word bisignus. So I guess technically they are that word, and they're meant to make profit, which is great. But my role within these companies essentially is to manifest them and then partner with someone who like a usually it's a manifesting generator. I'm a manifester, and then they can bridge that and then create a plan to execute it, and then we'll scale it with the right people. But the manifestors are not supposed to do a lot of quote unquote work. Um, we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to manifest things and then give other people purpose so they can have their purpose and do work with that. So that's how I don't stay too attached to them. I just look at them as extensions of that's man, great question by you. They're essentially extensions of my heart and my purpose. And then from the outside, if it's helpful, people are like, "Oh, you're up to all these things." I go, "Not really. I have the same purpose." Uh, and then companies get created out of them, but I'm not really that busy. I just talk to people like us and connect them, and then some of those connections turn into companies, and then we'll scale some of them. So it's really not that much quote unquote work for me.
Huh. Well, I mean, it's almost difficult to kind of imagine that, like just saying it's not a lot of work and you've got a few companies on your plate. It could also just be the way maybe you kind of manage, I guess, anxiety or workload and things like that. It could just be on another level too in some ways.
Well, it's a great point. I appreciate you saying that. I have learned that if I get too much in the day-to-day stuff, I would destroy everything. Like I I would melt I would destroy everything. So I have to be around people that um are more grounded, and then they can use their skill sets to scale it. So I know my role, if that makes sense. And then getting completely out of the way, like just getting out of the way of it. Um, and then whatever you want to call it, evolution or whatever. Many founders struggle because they try to be everything for everyone, and they get involved in all the things, and then their ego gets in the way, and it's very repelling. So I'm doing my best to not do that, and then fully collaborate on things, not compete with anyone, and then uh, enhance other people's gifts because it's their gifts, not mine. I know what my gift is.
You have to have quite a high level, I think, of EQ and um, self awareness to I guess be a manifester and not a control freak, right? Well, you know what I mean, like to allow things to grow and prosper. And because often with people that say are like, you might not want to call it a manifester, you can call it something else, but like, they're kind of visionaries or whatever. They also like to sort of have control, like make sure so that everything goes all right. But to allow it to sort of flourish, you have to relinquish that control and rely that there are other people that are probably better suited to doing this, so to speak, dirty work. Um, yeah, it's a challenge. It's a must be a mental challenge sometimes.
So it's an interesting thing that we've come full circle from talking about your friend with his relationship. It's the same thing from a company perspective. There's no difference. There's no the You're responsible for yourself, not other people. So like in in the company role, I'm responsible for what I know that I'm really good at, really good, and then the other stuff I'm not going to control. I'm not going to control people's gifts. I'm not going to do that. Let them
Yeah.
use their gifts. But what I will say, if it's helpful, is I do have an ability to understand what people's gifts are and then motivate them to really start something. Um, like I can manifest it for them to really get them going. One of my so I'll get messages from the people that I'm really close with. They're like they'll send a message like, "Oh, thank you for giving me my life back" or something. Like I'll get messages like that, which is very nice. Um, it's very nice. Um, and then they can do that and then really help society. So I know I can do that for certain people, not fixing them. There's a big difference. Um, but I can say, hey, what's stopping you from doing this right now? And the only thing that's stopping them from doing this right now is them stopping them from doing this right now. So if I ask them that question, then sometimes they'll stop stopping themselves and actually create something with me.
I think something that works in your favor as a leader as well is your sensitivity, because not all lead.
Sometimes it
Yeah.
does. Sometimes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess sometimes it's tough being that sort of empath, but like in a way, it does allow you, like you said, to sort of help other people, open them up and show them, okay, or just understand them, maybe.
Well, one, I really appreciate you saying that. You're very high in EQ that you realize that most people do not. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard it, but they don't think that about me. They think it's the opposite. Um, but manifestors have to tell people how they feel no matter what. Like if they're annoyed with them, if they love them, like they have to tell them how they feel to create peace. It's not to create problems at all. It's just we have to. So, um, so like it's not to cause problems, but it's just, I guess, how we're wired. Like it's just how we're wired. And um, so for the people who are really close in my life, it's wonderful to have that. But then to your friend's point, when you're genuinely telling them how you feel and they don't um, understand it, or they're not ready to accept that, or they flat out reject it, that's the really painful part. I mean, that's very difficult. But that's the evolution. That's the coming out of the chrysalis. That's what I'm really here to learn for sure.
One thing that I learned from you, just through your writings and your some of your posts was, and you've spoken about it now, so it'd be nice to sort of dive in there for 5 minutes or so. Is there you said that one of the I guess the most peaceful, helpful things that you've done is starting to write your own music and create your own music. Um, what is it about the writing of the music that you find so, I guess, fulfilling?
Um, well, there's a couple things from that. Music actually predates spoken communication by 10,000 years. The first spoken language started in Africa 50,000 years ago, and then they found a cave bear bone with four holes drilled into it in a Neanderthal cave in what's now Croatia, and that it was a cave bear flute, a flute, and that dated back 60,000 years. So 10,000 years before we started talking, we were making music. That's how we would communicate. And then I was talking to one of my friends a couple weeks ago. The first noise a child hears is the mother's heartbeat in utero. So boom, boom. So so writing these songs is uh is is a way of my heart communicating. Um, that's what I would say.
And yeah, it really got me thinking as well, like how much I would just love to almost do it myself, like because it sounds very therapeutic.
That's what our company is. That's what Corvia.ai is. It's literally we're building a community to teach people how to, and it's 100. It's the bet. It's you can make art within 5 minutes. So I'm so excited about it because they're like, well, who does this work for? Anyone? Like, what? I mean, any humans? I mean, it doesn't even have to be a human. A bot could be. The but uh, from a tactical standpoint, the workshops that we've led, whether it's in person or virtual, or if somehow if it starts out whether you're writing the lyrics or not, or you're using AI to actually write the lyrics, as long as you start with a beautiful experience or a painful experience, uh, something with deep emotion or soul, then somehow the technology can capture that and enhance it, augment the soul. I don't know how it does it. It's amazing how it does it. It's beyond human explanation with that. But that's music. That's what music is in general. And then so to be able to do that quickly and build a community that will do that is really exciting. And again, there was no intent to start a company at all. It was just to your earlier question, it was just channeling my own heart. I mean, like I get emotional just thinking about it because, like you can't fake that type of emotion. You can't do it. It's so there's no logic behind any of it. It's just in your heart or your soul. And I was I was talking to my partner for the other music company. We're actually having humans make the songs. The actual singer, songwriter, or not songwriter, but the singer musician who's making the song, the first one, or he made it. He's also a Life Path 11, which is duh, of course he is. But then my partner for that has been in the music industry for years. He's like the world's greatest songs ever were um all of the great ones were just channeled through your heart, like, and then most, not all, but most of them were deeply emotional, some type of tragic love story or something like that. uh Whatever you want to call it, but like that's what music actually is. It's a heart communication system. It's a soul communication system. I guess that's the best way I can explain it.
And I read your song Valentine, and I thought the lyrics were beautiful there. So yeah, I mean, thanks for writing it. Definitely a deep one. I felt it.
Yeah. Well, did you listen to it or did you just read the lyric?
No, I just read the lyrics. I haven't listened to it yet, so I definitely will. And I was just what like as we finish up here, just what are you most excited about for the future? What have you got anything cool coming up besides the retreats and anything else?
I, well, um, every day, every day something magical like this happens. So I've tried not to live too far in the future, um, because one, trying not to be attached to any outcome. I'm just trying to live my life in the present. Present is a gift. Present, like a present. And then whatever is meant to be is meant to be. But what I will say is that when you have conversations like this, to create things out of that is a great gift. I'm very grateful for that. Um, and then I will say the I mean for everyone for sure, but like the people who have impacted all this creativity, I just pray for them. Yeah.
And if people want to get hold of you or get in touch, is there a good way or just to follow you?
It's always fun. We have this like deep spiritual conversation, and then we the well, one of the companies is theepicfit.com, theepicfit.com, and then the music one, the one I've announced is corvia.ai, corvia.ai. So theepicfit.com or corvia.ai.
Cool. That's awesome. That. And my final question for you is like, what does being ridiculously human mean for you?
I mean, this conversation maybe. Um, you know, people like us are usually aliens within our own family community and vertical. Um, it's We're greatly misunderstood by most of society. So, uh, but what I found is being like this um, it's a gift, and so if I have to be like a ridiculous human to be my, showcase this gift, then I'll do that.
Yeah, but that's so cool. Thanks so much for seriously the chat. I think this is probably the first time I've ever had a podcast where I've never asked a question that I sort of had planned. It literally went down a path and then we just took it and it was a beautiful chat. So I appreciate it and I love what you're doing and that you're in this sort of heart space and helping people. And yeah, man, thanks for your time, buddy.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Justin.